Welcome to Soul Spirit Story AC, where every story touches the heart and awakens the soul. Today's story is about a single father, a desperate act, and a twist of fate that no one could have predicted. It was a quiet evening in the small town of Brooksville. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Tom Anderson, a single dad of a 10-year-old girl named Lily, sat on the porch of his small, worn-out house. His hands were rough from long hours of work, and his eyes carried the weight of exhaustion. He had lost his wife 2 years ago in a car accident and was struggling ever since to make ends meet. Tom worked as a mechanic at a local garage. He was good at his job, but no matter how hard he worked, the bills never seemed to stop piling up. Rent, school fees, medicine for Lily's asthma, it was becoming too much. He often stayed awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long he could keep going. Across town, in a towering glass building, sat Melissa Hart, the CEO of Hart Motors, one of the biggest car manufacturing companies in the region. To the world, she was confident, powerful, and unstoppable. But behind the success and luxury was a woman haunted by loneliness. She had no family, no real friends, just business meetings, profits, and deadlines. One morning, Tom received a letter from the bank. It was the final notice. If he didn't pay the overdue amount by the end of the week, his house would be repossessed. He looked at Lily playing with her old teddy bear and felt something break inside him. Desperation can turn even the kindest soul toward darkness. That evening, while fixing a luxury car that belonged to Melissa Hart, an idea crossed Tom's mind. A terrible idea. If something happened to the CEO's car, something that looked like an accident, maybe he could take something valuable, something that would pay his debt and save his daughter's home. His heart pounded as the thought grew louder in his head. For 2 nights, he fought with himself. He told himself he could never do it. But when Lily had another asthma attack that night and he couldn't afford the medicine, his resolve shattered. The next morning, Tom arrived at the garage early, before anyone else. Melissa's black luxury sedan stood gleaming under the light. He opened the hood, his hands trembling. He looked around. No one was there. He whispered, "I'm sorry," and carefully cut the brake line. He told himself it was just fate, that maybe she wouldn't even drive it today. But fate had other plans. That afternoon, Melissa got into her car, heading toward the city outskirts for a meeting. Tom stood at the garage gate, his stomach twisting in guilt and fear. He watched the car disappear down the road and felt like he couldn't breathe. Every second that passed felt heavier. Then, his phone buzzed, a news alert. Local CEO in near-fatal car accident. His world froze. He dropped his phone, rushed to his old truck, and drove toward the accident site. The car had crashed into a ditch, smoke rising from the hood. Firefighters were pulling Melissa out. She was alive, but unconscious. Tom parked at a distance, heart racing. He wanted to run, to confess, but fear held him back. He went home that night, shaking, his mind echoing with guilt. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Lily noticed his trembling hands and asked softly, "Daddy, are you okay?" Tears filled his eyes. "No, sweetheart, Daddy made a big mistake." Days passed. Melissa was in the hospital, recovering. The news said the accident had been caused by a brake failure, but investigators hadn't found evidence of tampering yet. Still, Tom couldn't live with himself. Finally, he walked into the hospital, his heart pounding. He asked for Melissa's room and stood outside her door for a long moment before walking in. She looked pale but strong, sitting up with a laptop on her lap. When she saw him, she smiled faintly. "Tom, right, from the garage." He nodded, his throat dry. "Yes, ma'am, I came to see if you're okay." She sighed. "I will be. They say it was a miracle I survived." His hands clenched. "It wasn't a miracle, ma'am. It was my fault." Her eyes lifted sharply. "What do you mean?" Tears rolled down his face. "I cut your brake line. I was desperate. My daughter's sick, the bank's taking our home, and I thought if something happened to your car, I could find a way to fix my life. But I almost took yours." For a long moment, there was silence. Only the steady beeping of the heart monitor filled the air. Then, Melissa spoke, her voice calm but heavy. "You could have killed me, Tom. You know that." He nodded. "I know, and I'll accept whatever happens. I'm ready to turn myself in." But instead of calling security, Melissa just looked at him, really looked at him. His worn clothes, trembling lips, eyes full of regret. She saw something she hadn't seen in years, truth. Sit down, she said quietly. Tell me about your daughter. He told her everything. Lily's illness, the hospital bills, the sleepless nights, his fear of losing everything. By the time he finished, Melissa's eyes were wet. The next day, when Tom walked into the police station to confess, the officer handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter. Tom, sometimes life pushes us to the edge, not to make us fall, but to teach us how far we can rise. You did something wrong, yes. But you had the courage to admit it, and that takes strength. I'm not pressing charges. Instead, I want you to come work for me, not as a mechanic, but as the head of a new community repair program. Let's fix lives, not destroy them. Melissa Hart. Tears filled Tom's eyes as he read the letter over and over again. He couldn't believe it. A month later, he stood outside a brand new workshop with a sign that read, Hart Community Garage, helping hands for those in need. Lily ran around laughing, her laughter echoing like sunlight through clouds. Melissa visited often, smiling as she watched the father and daughter rebuild their world piece by piece. She found something she never had, family. And Tom, once lost in despair, found hope again. Because sometimes, the darkest decisions lead to the brightest redemption. Thank you for watching Soul Spirit Story AC. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories that remind us, no matter how far we fall, forgiveness and hope can always lift us back up.